everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Elevated Conversations with Empress Where. So today we have a special guest by the name of Jim, but you guys know him on Twitter as Happily Angry Lawyer. So we're going to bring him up.
Hey. I just realized I can't see anybody. I can't see the chat. I just feel like it's just us two.
You can't see the chat?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, I was going to say it should be it should say comments.
Got it.
Welcome, you guys. Thank you guys for joining us for the very first episode. I see you guys already in the chat. Thank you guys for the feedback. Be sure to hit the like button. I'm not big on that, but that's what they say out here. Sure, hit the like button. So do that. But thank you guys for joining us. Today is going to be it's going to be a very interesting conversation as Jim kind of discusses the plea deals in the trial, as well as some other very informative things that he'd like to share with everybody. So go ahead, Jim, introduce yourself and tell the people who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer in California, Los Angeles most specifically. I don't do any kind of criminal law work at all. I do a lot of motions and hearings practice, but never criminal law, definitely never in Georgia. And I got into this case because I got clickbaited into watching Brian Steele get locked up. I thought it was going to be really funny to see the old guy with white hair get thrown in jail. But
yeah, that's the part that got a lot of people.
Yeah, and I didn't really like the judge very much, so I started watching a little bit more, and it seemed to be kind of a slow descent into madness.
Yeah.
Not that slow at times, actually, just a free fall, really.
Straight to the pits.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I just kind of got into it bit by bit, and it's funny not being able to participate in a trial. That's not really a thing that I don't just watch trials for fun on my free time.
Okay.
So it was just kind of getting under my skin, and you can't do anything about it. So it was just kind of kept learning more and more about it. And yeah, then eventually there was the situation with Antonio Sledge, and I think that he was treated unfairly and in a way that people aren't entirely grasping. I think there's this idea that he was kind of taken advantage of because he didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
And there's some truth to that, but there are also a lot of ways in which he was the one who was right about what was going on. He would say that he was confused, and it was confusing, and it's confusing to me. And like D.A. Love and Judge Glanville were very sure of themselves, and if you watch without paying careful attention, you kind of come away thinking that they know what they're talking about and that they're right. Then you go back and break it out, and you realize that it's just incomprehensible. So anyway, I just wanted to
the word incomprehensible. I like that to explain it all. Yeah, for sure.
It's fun. Actually, I was in court yesterday on streaming, and it was I'm less nervous. So I'm actually more nervous talking about it than participating. It's kind of funny.
It's okay. We got it. We're good.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a good time tonight and delve into it and kind of really, hopefully you can. I know you were telling me before, but I think that you would have a better grasp of it than I would. So I definitely appreciate you coming on, and I definitely appreciate the information that you're about to provide. We do have a special guest that most people did not know would be coming up tonight, but a lot of you guys that are in here that may be coming from Twitter may know who this next person is.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for joining us. So we're going to let Jim get started and kind of delve us into what he has, and we'll kind of, I guess, break it down as he goes along.
Sure. I'm just going to do this screen share real quick. 1 second.
I'm going to go off screen for 2 seconds to close the door so we don't have interruption.
And make sure I don't show any client files real quick.
Okay, for sure. Oh, we have Nick Starr on the building. Hello,
Nick's here.
All of your people. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
I was
He
just
was-
watching his stream a few hours ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Very cool.
He's great. I appreciate him for having me on for sure.
He was tweeting in Swedish last night, and I was on Google Translate trying to find something
Was
that
he?
I could say,
That?
but I couldn't. I wasn't entirely sure that it was accurate, and I didn't want to, say anything wrong. All right.
Slate can be a little rough sometimes.
Okay, here we go. Okay, can you see? Yeah, it looks like you can see
I will
mostly.
go ahead and share that.
See wide.
There we go.
I'm gonna need my glasses.
No. All right. Okay, well, I'll highlight the important parts. Anyway, so the one on the left is the original indictment that was, it was the original indictment. It was May 9th, 2022. Remember, that's the date that was talked about yesterday when Jeffrey Williams was arrested at his home, and that was the day that he first came to be incarcerated.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is the document, and some of these aren't highlighted for any particular reason, but
those are all the co-defendants, correct?
yes, they are. Let me see, there's anybody. There's Slamline Shuddy, who's the man of the hour.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
See him on Monday.
Let's see. So this one, let's see here. I'll explain why this is important in a second, but obviously these are the same. So if you're just looking at the cover of the indictment versus the re-indictment, the one on the right is the currently active. It's the indictment that's actually in effect now. So the one that if you were to plead guilty, you'd be signing the version on the right. So, but just at first glance, it looks like it's the same thing. It looks like count 30. That's Antonio Sledge's charge, one of the two.
Okay.
It looks like it's the same thing. So,
but it's not, is what you're saying.
So far, I mean, I haven't gone there yet.
Okay.
I've talked about this a bit before, but I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, catch me up.
Yeah.
He's gonna catch us all up.
Let's see. I do color code highlighting. It's, I'm a crazy person.
Okay.
Yeah, so you see, once you actually get to page, whatever this is, page 74, and whatever this page on the right is, it's completely different.
Oh, wow. It's like noticeably different.
Yeah, if you can just look at it, even if you can't understand it, you can just look at it. And
hold on one second. If you guys are watching, if you want to kind of see what it says, you can zoom in. If you're on, I know I'm streaming on Twitter and YouTube, but if you're on YouTube, you can zoom in on the screen so that you can kind of see what he's saying.
I can do one at a time and just switch back and forth, probably.
I think this is fine.
Okay.
So that they can see the difference in real time.
Sure, sorry. But yeah, anyway, so the one on the left, the original one, that's 1611-131. I don't know why they use 3 numbers for everything. That's Georgia, I guess. But anyway, that's kind of a less serious charge. It's basically if you have been convicted of using a gun in a felony.
Okay.
And then, you get sentenced. Then the second time you are caught with a gun. That's what this is. And then the one on the right is same thing. You're convicted of felony using a gun. And then the second time, you're not only possessing the gun, but then you're again using it in a felony. So let me see. The first one is I rob a bank with a gun, and then I get caught with a gun. The second one is I use a gun to rob a bank, and then I use a gun again to rob a bank or to do something else.
Okay.
I think the first one's about possession, and the second one's about use.
The act. Okay.
Using a gun versus having a gun. But one of the things you need to notice is that it's a different charge. It's 131 versus 133. And remember on the front, when you just look at it on the cover, it says the same thing. And it's not just the number. It's also, if you look at the actual, let me see, the underlying convictions, it changes from participation in criminal street gang and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon to possession of a firearm during commission of felony, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So they're changing the underlying. It's not just a simple cut and paste. Is my point. It's not just.
Why would they normally? Why would they do something like that?
There's not really any reason to.
Okay.
Because you just need any felony, so it's weird that they would change. I'm sorry. Let me go back. For 131, the short answer is I don't know. Either combination is fine. If it's not any better or worse, it's just odd that they would change it.
Okay. So I think that was my thing. Like, did they make the charge worse?
Yeah, and so that's. Let me show. This is just for comparison as well. Show that the change is consistent. The overt acts, which is usually not overt, but you have to like explain why they're overt acts a lot. It's usually not how that word works, but so it's different here as well. So they changed it in 2 different locations. So it wasn't a mistake. It was an intentional change to the charges. And again, it's 131 versus 133. And become important. Second, 133 has a higher sentence. It's up to 15 years. So the sentencing is a lot stricter. And it's also, I believe it's mandatory consecutive as opposed to concurrent. So it's not just 15, it's a big difference in terms of sentencing. Yeah, but again, if you look at the cover, you wouldn't know that.
Wow.
Okay, and there's one little weird thing. I had a little freak out on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I was wrong.
Okay.
But there's a reason why I was wrong. Let me see, 52. Remember when Yak Gotti was standing on the car, and that meant that he was in a gang, I guess?
Right.
Yeah, so this is, you'll notice, this is really interesting to me. So the one on the left, the original one, they're essentially describing the crime correctly. They're using all the right elements. So remember, it's you've used a gun before in a felony, and then you use a gun the second time in a felony. And so at the bottom here, there's describing the prior time that Max is going to be so mad at me. The prior time Shannon allegedly used a weapon in the commission of a felony. Okay. So they had that detail down here, and then up here they described the second part of this, the second incident that they're actually getting arrested for in this case. But then they update it in the re-indictment, and they just make it worse. They make it vague. They get rid of the language that describes the first conviction. It's just not there.
Context is gone. Okay.
So it's not, they're not improving it. They're actively making their indictment worse, which to me kind of seems like they're blurring the lines between 133 and 131 by kind of especially redacting information from the second charge.
That's weird.
Yeah.
And this is Muntung's charges, correct? Antonio Sledge.
This one's just for comparison, but the previous one that we looked at is.
Okay.
But remember that with Muntung, we're going from 131 to 133, and they're also at the same time they're making what 133 is less clear. So it's definitely a red flag when they're kind of muddying the waters at the same time they're making an undisclosed change. And that's
the normal for the indictment to be updated like mid-trial, essentially, or?
Let me see. I believe you have to be re-indicted to get. There can be, I think, like minor changes or minor tweaks, but if it's a whole new charge, there needs to be a new indictment.
Okay.
And I could be wrong about that. I'm not super up on Georgia procedure, but I believe that's the case. So I want to show you what happens between these two things.
Okay.
I think is interesting.
Thank you guys that are just coming in. Thank you for joining us. We are currently going over the two different indictments. So the original indictment, and then they updated the indictment. So Jim is kind of showing what he's seen in the two indictments, the differences, for those that are just joining us.
Oh man, are people being nice to me? I can't even see.
They're being really nice, Jim.
Yeah?
Yes, they are.
Good, okay. Usually I just have other lawyers yelling at me when I'm streaming. It's different. Let's see. So this is the infamous Jeffrey Williams. You can just hear Brian Steele's voice when you look at this. It just looks like something Brian Steele would write. The cute little numbers. Sorry, I'm supposed to be being serious. That's my bad. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a demand. The speedy trial demand is a demand for a speedy trial. You wouldn't have guessed that. I'm glad I'm here to explain it to you. But yeah, it was filed on May 31st. The original indictment was May 9th.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. And then next you have the state. Let's see what the date on this is. So it's July. So it's a few months later, they realized that they've charged 28 people, 25 in custody, and 10 of them still don't have lawyers. And there's been a speedy trial demand. So they're about 5 months away from the start of the trial, and they're realizing that charging 28 people at the same time is administratively difficult.
Right.
And just to remind everybody, those guys are still in jail right now. And they haven't even started.
Is it true that still some of them aren't represented?
I was just about to say that, yeah. I think that is true based upon what I've heard. Also because of the backup, because of the current trial that's happening, from my understanding that's what's taking place. A lot of them needed public defenders, so that whole, the fight is so much bigger, we have a long way to go. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's crazy, but that's what I've heard as well. Maybe Bruce Harvey will just come back and represent all of them.
Is that possible that he can represent anybody else in the case, or any of them once they're off the case and it's done? Can they come back and then represent someone else?
Good question. The short answer, I don't know. I would guess as long as there's a final judgment and there's no pending case. No, actually, no, I don't think so. There's probably a confidentiality issue, client.
Because he's already heard the entire case.
Yeah, I was just thinking about in conflict, but in terms of confidentiality, I don't think he'd be able to. Okay, so after they're re-indicted, they need to get rid of the first indictment because you can't have two indictments at the same time. Okay. So this is the motion to dismiss Khalif Adams. I think he's still pending. But yeah, so this is pretty straightforward. It's just they're asking to dismiss, or because George is weird, to null pros the case. And the interesting thing, oh God, they make us use this. Why can't we just use a normal PDF? Anyway, it says the state moves to null pros. I'm sorry, up here. All constant offenses from the first case are incorporated into the re-indictment in the new case. So they're saying that every count that was in the first one, every charge that was in the first one was incorporated.
Even though they adjusted it.
What's that?
Even though they adjusted it with the updates that you were speaking of. Okay. Yeah,
so this isn't true. So either they were lying or they were wrong.
Okay. Okay, I understand now. That's why they made the adjustment. Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure what order to show these in, but basically they're saying that the charges are the same. And on the cover of the re-indictment, it looks the same. It's only until you get to page 75 that you see that they're changed. And then they also removed language from comparable charges to kind of muddy the waters, to kind of camouflage it. And best case scenario, say that everything is they're just morally pure. They're the best.
And they have the same case numbers?
I think they're a little bit off, actually, because they added some stuff. Because remember on May 9th when they raided Flex House and they took the cars, they added charges from that date into the later one. So that would be normal, but the changing of the stuff in the past is
okay. I understand.
And in Georgia, there's actually precedent that says if you increase the severity of a crime for something in the past, and how can I put this?
It's like a substantial change to the original document or original indictment, right?
Oh, what was that?
It would be like a substantial change to the original indictment and thus making it invalid.
I don't know about invalid, but it's definitely, I would say, deceptive. Even if it's unintentionally deceptive, you're still making changes that you're saying aren't there.
I'll say this: all the things we've seen throughout this trial, I don't think anything's unintentional.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's so many. You know, it's crazy. If you go back and you watch the beginning of the trial, I was thinking today they were trying to get a DJ Academics highlight video into evidence.
Right. I remember that with Glanville, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they should be trying to get. You know, I'm not going to make that joke. That's. He's great. I love him. Everything he says is. His legal analysis is incredible.
Do we know how they were going to get that video in? Were they going to bring Ack and have him testify to it?
You've thought more about it already than they did. You've already asked too many questions.
I think we actually tried. I think we actually were talking about that on Twitter because they also brought up College Kid and a couple other blogs, and they were going to use their posters, their videos to. I think Glenn actually let a couple of them in. So, and I think it was from College Kid, if I'm not mistaken.
Honestly, the court might let a detective testify to it. Honestly, like
the expert.
Yeah,
those experts.
The designated academics expert who's able to come in and verify its authenticity.
He's watched plenty of academics, right? He's been academics for years.
I need to stop. I can't. Like,
are the rules for being an expert so loose? Like, come on.
And somebody's life is on the line, and we're playing around with those words and that terminology. Like everything in this case, to me, and I've been saying, I felt like I'm watching a mock trial. Like everybody's just an actor and actress, and it's very from the defense. Like from the prosecutors, it's just very a little disappointing. Great for the defense, obviously, but to be prosecutors, and again, I'll continue to say, to make so many mistakes or unintentionally do things, I think that we are giving, let me rephrase it actually, I think that the judge is giving the state too much leeway, too much power to continue to mess up when there are people's lives on the
line. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, as the defense, I'd take a bad expert over a good expert any day, but these guys are ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot your question about the expert testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wrong. They're not doing it right. So they're talking about the Dobert tests. I don't know how to say it. That doesn't really work in this kind. It's about scientific reliability. It's about whether you can repeat methods and get an accurate result. And is there a consensus and like an academic consensus as to what they're going to be testifying about? And that's not watching Boys in the Hood. There's no science, there's no study. I'll participate in that study if someone wants to pay me to watch Boys in the Hood, but there's no scientific methodology that can be evaluated.
I was blown when he said that. I was blown. Do you hear me?
That's not actually about rap as far as I remember.
It's not.
It's okay.
It's not. Not in the least.
Yeah, it's Ice Cube, but I don't think he was actually like, Ice Cube. He was, wait. No,
the fact that he even said that was a part of his training or talk process, or that to me, detective, and not to speak ill of anybody, but Detective Dennis have been up there we've heard him numerous times before, and so this being like the end of his thing, and they wanted to keep going, and we need his information, and it's like, why? He's making a fool of himself and you guys.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this earlier. I posted this. There's something from Westlaw. It's like a research database thing. Some people use Lexis. I think it's more common in Georgia, but they give you like little bullet points of things that happened in the case. And it was just, if you had cut and pasted on top of this trial, it would have been perfectly in place. You wouldn't have thought it was from a different trial. But there's a gang expert that came in and he testified, and it was like point by point the same thing. And you kind of see, this isn't my thought. Somebody pointed this out in my comments, but I'm going to steal it. That's the consequence of they're all teaching each other. It's one pool of experts, and then they teach the other pool, and it's just a
How
it's a conspiracy. It's an organized conspiracy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the way they garner the information is by infiltration, correct? Generally, they're getting that information from someone they sent into the field, correct? Or am I all the way wrong?
I mean,
how else would you become an expert, a gang expert, or a rap expert, or whatever you'd like to call your expertise?
Yeah. I mean, this isn't my legal opinion, but like that's just I mean, that's my understanding of what being an expert is. You have to go and do the thing. You can't just. Right. I just the thing that's crazy to me is that you have like the rappers in the room right there that are actually experts, and they have to listen to people just murder the thing that they love.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's terrible. Like people with no like English degree, people who know nothing about music theory, who know nothing really about, like, they're not even analyzing the culture in which the music is coming from. Like, very interesting. I had a feeling that if the defense were to bring a case, that they were going to, bring in all these experts, like culture experts and music theory experts, to talk about how wrong the state got it. It's insane to me.
Yeah. I was really looking forward to listening to Brian Steele describe the musical artists. A wonderful recording artist, Nicki Minaj. He's adorable.
Right.
He was hard for that. I think that I'd like to call that his closing statement that he made, and it was very impactful. And I believe that had a play on the judge. I'm not 100% sure, but also Thug speaking. I think that was just in general, because there were things like with Miss Love giving out lyrics that wasn't even Jeffrey's lyrics, to saying that this is what he meant when he said, and it's like, you're looking like a fool, lady.
It's so great. It's so great.
A fool in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
Jim, what did you think whenever she came out and said negotiated plea? Like, my heart almost like fell through my chest. I was like, what? You got to be kidding me.
So it's fine. I wasn't actually, I had a work thing. I can't remember what it was now, but I was doing something. And so I actually turned it on, and I think it was actually, I don't know if Nick's still here, but I think it was Nick's Twitter or video. I don't know what it was, but they were talking about, she was standing there and they're talking about 25 years. Like, how did we get from, I've just spent an hour. How did you go from winning to 25 years?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, Brian Steele's performance was very impressive. The command of the facts. I mean, that's years worth of research and of facts that he was just recalling. And this kind of gets back to the point about the judge. Sometimes judges will be more forgiving of the side that they think is going to lose, because it gives them a little bit of protection on appeal. If you let them get away with more stuff, they can't complain and they can't challenge things as easily because they got to say their piece. I don't know if that's what's happening here, but
that makes some sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no expression.
Yeah. I had a hearing just like that yesterday. It was so funny. There was this first-year lawyer, and he came in, and you could tell that he thought he was winning. And the judge was just saying, "Yes, yes, go on."
No.
And just walking right into it.
Oh my God! Just let him have it. So that she was like, "I let him. I let him do his argument." Wow.
Yeah. It was delightful. Oh man.
And so
he's such a dick. Oh my God. I hate him so much.
I'm sure you run into a lot of people like that. I'll say that.
No, he's unique. He was one of a kind. But yeah, I'm not doing it so much right now, but I used to do a lot of stuff with Ponzi schemes, and you'd get these eccentric people who found themselves in just bizarre, I thought I owned a cannabis company and now I don't, and they want to know what happened to their money, and they're mad at me because they gave money to the Ponzi scheme.
Are you supposed to go in and get their money back? Is that that's what you're supposed to be doing?
That's what they want.
Yeah, it's usually gone. It's usually gone. But yeah, that's the idea for the most part.
Okay, and so when we talk about Moot Tombstone, because that's what I know there's a lot that happened in the last 48 hours, but at least I want to delve into it just a little bit. And my bigger question to you would be, is there anything that now that he's been sentenced to the time that he's been sentenced, is there anything that he can do to reverse that sentence?
For Motel?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yes, there definitely are. So I'm still looking into the exact procedure of it, but I mean, I think the first place you would start is just a motion for reconsideration. And you can almost always do those when the case is pending. It's not an appeal, it's just asking Judge Whitaker to reconsider. And I checked with one pretty successful Georgia attorney yesterday or the day before, and he said he told me that it would be available, and that's literally just, hey, please reconsider this. I think the states had a few of them.
How long would he have to wait for something like that?
I don't think it'll be that long.
Over?
Yeah, I think it's up to the court to schedule, but I'm guessing it would not be that long of a wait. One of the things that makes this kind of time sensitive is that while the trial is ongoing, it's probably going to be more likely to get a date for a hearing because the court's in session every day and it's the same case. So they're going to be more open to just scheduling a half hour here or there to do the hearing. So
do you suggest that he go back in with the same lawyer?
No.
Why did you ask me that?
Let me say this first. I always say, it's always good to have a second opinion. I'm an engineer, and we don't do anything without second opinions. So it's always good to have another set of eyes, take a look at things, and come up with another perspective. Because I think, Jim, you went back and you analyzed kind of like what happened here, and then you went back and kind of looked at what was kind of represented to the judge. And I think that you had some points that were like, hey, this could have like really swayed her opinion. And at least when I was reading it, it kind of made me think twice.
Yeah, I think it's this actually, there are a couple things about that. The first thing is the second opinion thing. Pretty much everything that I say that I argue is something that was missed. And this is even specific to him. Anytime you have an appeal, if part of the issue is that your lawyer made a mistake the first time around, then you bring it back the second time, you're essentially having somebody say, yes, I messed up, but I'm right this time. And that relates kind of to Brian Steele yesterday. He's built up that credibility with the court. He's been honest when it's inconvenient or harmful to his client. So when the chips are down and he says, I almost cursed, those people over there are lying.
You can curse on my channel. This is
God,
all not to be yourself.
I've been struggling so hard not to.
No,
oh my God.
This is a channel where people can be themselves. If you curse, because I curse. So I curse like a sailor. I'm not about to try to,
Yeah. I got banned from one of the legal subreddits for not talking like a lawyer. I said something about somebody.
Welcome over here.
Yeah. Those nerds.
It's the West Coast,
Yeah.
Different than the East. In the South.
I'm from the East Coast, actually.
Okay. New York, maybe?
No, oh God, no, I'm leaving. Maine, actually.
Maine, okay.
Yeah. Oh God, the Yankees lost. It was so great.
Okay, so somebody in the chat had a question. They wanted to know how you spotted the difference in the indictments.
Because I'm a loser. That's why.
Stop it.
No, let me see. I don't remember, actually. I really don't know.
Rabbit hole.
Did you just look and see that some words may have come off different? Or did you just see that there were two indictments that were filed on the case?
I have no idea.
Well, there's your answer, guys.
If I had to guess, I probably was writing something down. That's probably what it was. I bet I was taking. Okay, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure this is right. The re-indictment, I was probably taking notes as I was going through it, and then the number changes from the cover to the body. So I probably noticed it within the re-indictment first, and then went back to check the first one to see if it was the same problem.
And then that's when you noticed.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
Which one did Muntuk like basically sign his plea to? Was it the first one or the second one?
It's the second one. Everyone that the re-indictment was before the trial, so everyone that has been convicted is on the second one.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So it's the one that's just internally inconsistent. And yeah, let me just get through this one real quick.
Okay.
Unless I don't know what are we on YouTube? What channel?
We're on YouTube and Twitter right now.
Yeah.
I'm so old.
I'm X. We're on X.
Okay. So here we go. So this is December. Let me see. How do I want to do this? Okay. So the negotiations between Derek Wright and Love start. They don't have the exact date, but roughly mid-November, and they continue almost to the end of December. But this was filed on December 1st or December 1st. And what this says is just garbage. But what it actually says is that when disputed, you look at the body of the indictment, not the caption. So you'd be looking at the detailed part and you'd be looking at this stuff, not at what's up here.
Okay, so now what's in the square boxes, but what's in the details on the various counts below?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
But what's more important about that to me is that they're aware that there's something wrong. That's mismatched. So they clearly know that there's an issue in the indictment, or they wouldn't have filed this. And so as far back as December of 22, they knew that there was this issue.
So 2 years ago, they knew that it was a problem.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a secret. I think that there were discussions about other mistakes. There are plenty, but there were problems back then.
I do think I recall some like litigation or issues in front of Judge Glanville about the indictment, and I think he basically told him to take it to appeal. So
you can't. It's before the trial. You can't tell people to take it to appeal before the trial even starts.
I think he brought it up in the trial at some point in time. I recall him mentioning some issues with the indictment, but
yeah, I know there's something I didn't know exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I heard that as well, but again, we've heard a lot in the last 11. Well, some people have been watching since the beginning. But I'll say in the last year and a half, we've heard a lot of things that should have happened, things they saw that were incorrect, but it seems like everybody just kept going. The train is.
This is a heavily contested trial. I mean, it's like a bad divorce basically in there. And like everything is contested. And it's like, they're fighting over the who gets the banana holder, who gets the laptop stand, and who gets the TV that's in the living room. It's like every single thing that they can fight about, they fought about in this trial. And so there's so many different issues that came up that are even hard to remember, especially the way Glanville handled things, right? He'd say, oh, well, we'll talk about that later. And then
I honestly can say that was the one thing. And I will say that 10 toes down that every time my nerves would go shaking because he'll say, we'll deal with that at a later time. And then that later time would come and one of the defense attorneys would speak up and he'd be like, well, why didn't you tell me? And they're like, you told us that we'll deal with it at another time. And I'm like, I just never understood that.
And then one time, I think Misty Williams was just upset and she's like, Judge, you said we talk about it later. Later is now. And he's like, well, I'm still upset at you. I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
yeah, I feel like he was normal at the start. I think the trial broke him. I think that's what happened. I think that. I mean, I get it.
I mean, the trial is hard but honestly, and this is my layman's opinion I feel like he was Mrs. Love and I could have missed. I don't even know if she's married now, but he was her crutch, and once he was gone, she was a tad frazzled, and you can see the total difference in just everything. The way that they used to argue, even the way they were arguing back and forth. You don't see a judge arguing with a prosecutor the way that they used to go at it back and forth, and then not have any contempt or anything like that. That was all very interesting to me.
That was very interesting. I've never seen. You don't argue with the judge. Period. That's not. Yeah, I've never seen anything remotely close to that.
And how long have you been doing law? Like any type of law? Like how long have you been doing law?
Let me see. Like 7 years or so.
Okay.
6 years. I'm still a baby, but
I think you're there, and you're an advocate, and I think that you may not be criminal law, but everybody needs a lawyer in some form or fashion. So I think you're doing good, and I like your takes. Your takes are very engaging.
Yeah, and I think you're hilarious. So definitely bring in that little aspect too.
Oh, you told me I was funny that one time. That made me happy.
You made me happy.
Yeah. I just noticed how she spells her name. I've never seen someone spell her name like that before. Kathleen. Anyway, this is why I noticed things, because I'm just crazy and I just read weird stuff. Anyway, yeah. So this is December 9th. So this is a week later. I remember Sledge. He was negotiating his plea throughout this time, and so now they're saying that the states files this notice of aggravation, and it's basically saying that they're going to seek the harshest possible punishment. Okay. And remember earlier, I was saying that they had increased the sentence surreptitiously. They'd kind of hidden the increased.
In the new indictment.
Yeah, they switched from 131 to 133. So now we have, let me see, there's the change. They didn't disclose the change when they dismissed the original indictment. They've changed the language in the reindictment to kind of hide the difference between 131 and 133. And now they're saying a week later during the negotiations that they're going to be seeking this, the harshest possible sentence.
So he must, I would say, and it's just my opinion, he must not have gone along with what they were trying to do. And it seems that it appears that they've made it harsher and hard. Like they were just like, okay, you're not going to take what we say, so this is what we're offering.
Yeah. And remember, so the trial was supposed to start. It ended up being jury selection, but the trial was supposed to start like a month after this or so. So they're trying to get people out of the case because they don't even have lawyers for everybody.
Right,
so
we got 28 people and not enough lawyers.
Yeah. And so if you were to, think that they're not virtuous prosecutors all the time, you could read this as essentially punishing him for wanting to go to trial.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. That's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. And there's law in Georgia that says it's presumptively vindictive to increase the sentence because somebody exercises their procedural rights. So even though it was Williams who filed the speedy trial motion, it seems like there's some punishment and coercion to try to get people to plead guilty to get them off the case. If you were to think that they could do anything wrong.
Right.
Let me see. So that is the.
Thank you guys again for joining us, those that are in here, all 379 of you that are watching my very first segment of Elevated Conversations with Empress Fox. If you're just joining us, we have Attorney Jim R. and he didn't want to give me his title, so I'm just going to say we have Antonio. So we are here, and Jim is discussing, or as you know him, Happily Angry Lawyer on Twitter. We are discussing not only the indictment, but the plea deal, specifically Antonio Sledge's plea deal, as Jim has taken time over the past couple months to kind of play a detective and put a lot of things together and things that other people may not have seen. So he is engaging us with his research.
Yeah, I've been neglecting my clients just so much.
I don't know away from normality.
Oh man. Here's one fun. They spelled their address wrong one time. They spelled it Pyro Street. I thought that was really funny.
Even on the header?
No, there's like right here. It's right up top.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you should get that one.
Absolutely. But dude, your attention to detail is just insane.
It is insane. You're right. It is insane. Okay, we need to do a Ponzi scheme story show sometime.
I agree.
I have a rap one. It's fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, it's so good.
All right.
Did you say a rap one?
A rap one. There's a rapper involved. If Florida's involved, there's just everything you want. Vegas was involved. There's private jets and yachts. There's like a Ponzi scheme inside a Ponzi scheme.
Wow.
Wow.
Sounds like they were living life until they couldn't live the life anymore.
There are these two guys that would go Harley shopping together, and they'd both buy themselves a Harley like every weekend with the Ponzi scheme money.
No way.
It is adorable.
What an insane story.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give us the lowdown on that one.
I need to make sure that I need to see what I can talk about, but most of it.
Yeah, we'll let you go through that. So what are we looking at now?
So this is the plea agreement. Well, one of the many plea agreements that was this is the final version of the plea agreement between Sludge and the state, I guess. And you see here it's 133. So that's the harsher sentence. And that's not the one that was on the cover of the indictment. So that's the one that's kind of hidden a little bit.
Yeah.
This is so stupid. Okay. 15 years to serve. That's on the RICO. They really love 15 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, so sentencing withheld. So this is actually important. So the original deal is the sentencing is withheld until the completion of the trial. So once the testimony is done, they're gonna just get rid of this entirely.
Is that normal?
I want to say no.
Loaded question. What is normal in this case?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about judges to say. I think I get the sense that it's pretty common. The judge seems to be familiar with the withholding and then dismissing, but I wouldn't know what to say. But it's okay because this doesn't actually happen. And anyway, the basic structure is he testifies and he gets to get that dismissed and he's going to get probation. And so you see here special conditions of sentence. Adam Abate, who I love very much, he spoke about these at the revocation hearing, and you'll see it's pretty typical things. There's nothing saying that he has to commit crimes, which is good for the state. The factual acknowledgments here. You're familiar with these. I think it's weird they call them acknowledgments rather than like factual statements. Like I acknowledge it, but that's weird. We have the hand signals.
Yeah.
And
an associate.
So the big basis of this is that he signed this so that he can get home to his mother. Is essentially why he finally said, "Okay, I'll take this."
Yeah,
that's everybody's understanding, I believe.
That's true. What we're gonna see though is that the judge didn't accept this agreement. So this. We'll get to that, but a lot of this stuff isn't going to actually end up applying. And one of the things that I don't think we're going to get to this specifically, but the two things that Sludge was contesting was number 3 and number 8.
Okay.
And
read those aloud for us and for the chat, please.
Was that louder?
Yeah, can you read the number 3 and number 8 out to the chat, please? Just in case they can't see it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make it bigger. It says, while associated with YSL and support. Yeah. God, I sound like a prosecutor right now. While associated with YSL and to support and express loyalty to YSL, defendant, this is such bad writing. Oh my goodness. Okay. Defendant and co-defendant, D'Amico and Garlington, Quindary, Zachary, appeared in a video with no quotation marks, the video with another person, AS. But the defendant's A. They're talking about Antonio Sumlin, I think. But anyway, wherein defendant brandished a weapon used in a drive-by shooting, and wherein, on behalf of YSL, defendant threatened to harm a person named Cal. a rival gang member who had begun a relationship with defendant's ex-paramour girlfriend, because they need to say fucking paramour and then define it by saying girlfriend right after. So just say girlfriend. You don't need to say both.
I always thought that was silly to do that.
So that's the one that he didn't agree to, that he said he had discrepancies with, correct?
They didn't get into it, but there was clearly an issue with 3. We don't know what it was, but here's the thing: is when he says there's an issue with 3, this is discussing part 3, so it's an issue with 3 and 4, and this is about 3, so this is also contested. This is about 3, and then you're at 7. I don't think there was an issue with 7, but 8 was an issue. And so when he says 3 and 8, you're really talking about
3.
half of the,
yeah. Well, that's interesting. So answer me this, because again, I'm fresh and trying to understand it.
We might be going too deep right now, actually.
I was trying to think, like, how can he dismiss it, but also agree to it at the same time and say, they have it all wrong. But
that was literally about to be my question, because I was like, so what was the issue? Is it because he said, hey, I didn't necessarily write that or agree to that, but you guys still put it in? Is that I'm really trying to understand how he ended up going to jail.
Or he could say, I did not do these. You guys are saying I did this on behalf of YSL. I actually contest that, but you are saying that I'm a member of YSL, and so I can see, I can agree that by me being a member of YSL, it could be that on behalf of YSL, I did this, but really the actual true reasons were different. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's is that a total disagreement with what is written?
I mean, I don't think it's so much about here's what we know. We know that he didn't agree to these things, and this state had known that he didn't agree to these things for weeks. We know that there's a hearing on the 28th, and this is being negotiated on the 28th. So he has an hour until the hearing, and maybe the deal's off the table if he doesn't do it, and he has to go back to jail and go to trial and sit through all the things we just saw, or he can sign it. So it's not so much about whether he's saying it's true, or whether it is or is not true. It's about, is it worth signing, the cost and benefits of signing.
That's a great perspective. That makes sense.
Also, this doesn't make sense. This is terrible writing. Young Slime Life, aka YSL, is an organization made up of 3 or more members or associates who share common identifiers that include but are not limited to colors. The members share colors. I don't know what that means. They share hand signals and terminology. Okay, now we have a semicolon, so this needs to be a complete sentence. Who have committed crimes intended to decrease the notoriety, street credibility, I messed that up, and reputation of YSL. That's not a complete sentence. None of this makes sense. It's terrible, and I don't know what it means. I'm stopped. Okay.
Okay, so you went to law school. So you guys study grammar or English as a part of law education?
Kinda, I guess. I mean, it's usually understood that you'll
just ask.
It's heavily tested on the LSAT, but probably not.
Okay, I just didn't know.
But yeah, so I just want to say, number 3, he contested number 3. This is gibberish. Member and or associate means literally anything. 4 was contested, 5 was contested,
wow.
6 was contested. I'm not going to talk about McDonald's again.
That's going to carry all the way to the end of the trial.
This should be a question.
I have 2 questions.
I have so many questions. What's your question?
Well, I might be getting a bit ahead of myself, but can the defense call Brian Still as a witness?
I like the way you think. I think the issue would be what he'd be able to say with privilege. Or what his...
Because everything's work product.
Pretty much, yeah.
And he's not really willing to do that.
I would guess not. I'm sure there are things that he could testify to. I don't know. I'd have to know what it was for.
Yeah.
But if they can have Sprinkle, we should get Steele. I mean, that seems fair.
Right. It would just be cool to see them question still about the case.
Yeah.
But I don't know what he could actually say, because there's just so much that's actually hasn't been presented, like evidence, testimony that's actually not in evidence. And so,
Yeah. I was hoping we were going to get Mr. Birdman.
Right.
Man, I have so much that I could say about that, but we'll save that for something else.
Okay. Also, okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say about the Lil Wayne deposition. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube.
I have.
Oh God, it's so good. Okay. Okay, so basically I just wanted to show that these are the factual acknowledgments. But also, okay, this is important. Just remember that they're called defendants. Sorry, you know that factual acknowledgments, sentencing acknowledgments. So this is all going to be repeated in the disposition after the hearing. And let me see. If you fail, let me see. Defendant understands fully that if prior to the conclusion of the initial trial of this case, defendant fails or refuses to testify to any fact that he acknowledges in this plea agreement, failure or refusal nullifies any promise to null plus count 30. And also, this is shady. This is 35 years. That's not right. But
does it say
that's crazy?
It says fails to testify or refuses to, right?
Georgia is still in an 1800s. I don't understand these extreme sentences.
Honestly, I think it's probably 20, but that's me. I think 20 is actually the accurate max. But
wow.
Anyway, yeah. So this is important. Defendant understands if he violates, it'll result in him being sentenced. Because remember, they're withholding the sentence.
Right.
So the punishment for violating it is getting sentenced. So when it says, let me see, it says nullify any promise to null pros. So he hasn't been sentenced at all yet. This is going to be important in a second.
Okay.
Let me see.
Do you also see above there where it says that if he fails to scroll up again, prior to the conclusion, if he fails or refuses to testify to any fact, he necessarily didn't do that. I mean, he kind of testified to the facts, but he didn't. I don't know. I'd be arguing that, like, Your Honor, that doesn't say that if he refutes any fact. It just says if he refuses to testify to any fact.
Yeah.
That's a good catch. That is a great catch.
Here, I looked at that. You're right. I spent a lot of time on that.
I'm not sure if the judge would buy that, but I mean, that is what it says.
Words matter.
Yeah, I think there's a meaning, like an alternate meaning of testify to. It means specifically say that it's true.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you necessarily know that just by looking at it.
That makes sense.
And right. Would the defendant have understood that? I don't know.
Okay, this is just stupid. This is them sucking. This is incompetence. There's nothing malicious about it. But the deal was negotiated on the 28th and it was signed on the 28th. And then they left the date on the 27th. And the whole debate is about whether they're using the right version of the document. And I don't think it's important, but you can't do that. It's so amateur. This should be like an auto updating field in Word, so you don't get this doesn't happen. It's so sloppy.
So because what number was this plea? Was this rendition? This
was the second indictment, but his final plea agreement. So it could have been a prior negotiated plea that they had figured out multiple days ago, but wasn't actually the final one. That's important.
Yeah. But is this the one, Jim, that you said that the judge didn't grant yet?
Yes, he said no in his style. Let me see, get the transcript here. Okay. So it was filed later, but this is from the 28th.
Okay.
And let me just get my page numbers up. Oh, man. I'll say that the most frustrating part of this was listening to Love and Wright debate their emails for hours, because eventually you realize it's just two people arguing about their own email exchange while the emails are in front of them. It's just two people not understanding how email works for hours.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that was useless.
Yeah, I just realized like what I'm doing with my life, just listening to them talk about how email works.
And while he's getting the up, guys, I want to say again, thank you guys for joining us on the first episode of Elevated Conversations with Empress Fox. I appreciate all 400 plus of you guys that are tuning in and listening to Mr. Jim R, aka Happy Lawyer.
I need to change that.
Break some things down. No, I think that's good. I think it's good. It makes sense. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Hit the like button. I see all the conversation, and I will eventually absolutely go to the chat once we're done and try to answer some questions if you guys have questions in there. After class, if you see any questions, if you can grab those for me so that we can don't miss anything, we can take that at the end. Thank you very much.
I want to share this real quick. This is just stupid, but I want to share it because it's funny. Hold on, I gotta switch screens real quick.
Okay, no worries. Okay, while he does that, guys, I will go ahead and check out some questions that may be in here. Let's see.
Okay. I was kind of alluding to. Wait, let me see. Don't dot your I's and cross your T's. They're open to interpretation and or debate. Yep. And getting yelled at by partners.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually something that's I think is interesting about the prosecutors. I was thinking about this the other day. You have Love, and kind of the most senior one. Then you have Hilton, a little bit junior, and then there's Brown, and they're kind of like in the same life cycle. You can kind of, even within the course of the trial, you can kind of see the habits being passed on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Hilton talks, she sounds exactly like Love does. They use the same like crutches, in as much as this matter pertains to the defense with respect to like that's.
Do you think that energy was taught by Fanny or Fanny, since that's her office?
I don't know. I don't know about I don't even think it's any one person. It's just so institutional at this point.
Yeah, it's just Georgia. Yeah. I bet it's that. I bet it's Fulton County. Just Sprinkle. Personality.
Yeah, but yeah, like saying I would argue that you shouldn't do that, or I feel that. Any of those, just say if you're going to argue it, just argue it. You don't need to say I would argue that. That's just a bad habit.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Hilton. I think she's changed a lot during the trial. Actually, I think she's kind of picked up some of Love's bad habits in terms of shading the truth a little bit.
I agree.
And then I think Brown I don't think he's bad. He's just I know they okay. He just has bad habits, like the way he sways back and forth nervously when he's asking questions. Or let me see the talk he thought was in place. Yeah, I'm sorry. And he just has like little tics. He like will walk back and forth when he's speaking. Or remember the time that he was called Miss Brown?
I do.
The judge. The thing is, that morning there was like a huge mistrial blow up, and the judge ruled in their favor. And then it's immediately after that he corrects her in front of everybody. So she had just given him a break, and it's like, oh, you're going to correct me now, and okay, I'm not going to apologize to you. That's ridiculous. So you need to have somebody who's going to tell you, don't. If the judge cuts you a break, don't
Yeah.
Immediately correct her in front of everybody on something that doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, read the room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Heard about the plea. Let me see. Yeah, he actually answered yes before questions were finished several times. He said yes when he didn't know what he was saying yes to. Let me see. Can you see any part of my screen?
I can't.
I will edit now. There we go.
Okay, this is just kind of funny, but let's zoom it in. This is, from what I could tell, from what I could decipher from the trial testimony. Let me see. This is the email sequence. So these are the, let me see. These are the subject lines.
Okay.
And then these are, if there's an attachment, it's right here. And let me see. So I'll just walk through it. So they start with proper selection November 30th. Remember, the next day is when they did the motion to eliminate on the substance of the indictment. So it's literally the next day that she files it. Then we have version 1 here. And then they just changed the subject line just in 9 minutes apart, which is not what you're supposed to do with emails, but they don't know any better.
Interesting.
Right. So then, let me see. This is, they actually didn't disclose this email at first, but Wright asked for changes to be made. He says they're generally incorporated in the next version. There's nothing here, but then I should delete these notes. That's okay. Anyway, yeah, so we have a version here, and that's like a version. Then we have version 4, I think.
Okay.
And in the body of the email, actually, let me point this out. It's 12:28, so that's right before the plea hearing.
Okay.
And it's 1:54, so it's pretty close. We know I don't know exactly what time, but it was late afternoon. In the body, it says use this one, and then we know that number 8 wasn't in this version. And then, so it says use this one. So Derek Wright, I mean, he used the one that said use this one, apparently. So I can't fault him for that one. But then the last one, this is where number 8 goes back in. It's subject line sledge agreement updated 3. So I'm just wondering, did she just send a new email instead of responding to the email that had all of the versions? And that's why Derek Wright didn't see it, because she sent it in a different thread.
It's the detail again that you have.
All right. Yeah. So let me just kind of like rewind here and kind of summarize what happened. So there's multiple different agreements going back. She sends a final version V4 that says, "Hey, use this one," and the contested count number 8 or whatever it is, number 8 was not there in that one. That's crazy. And then obviously she sends up a new one maybe 30 minutes later with, I'm guessing, count 8 there, which as we all know is contested.
Yeah. But
so it's very reasonable. There's a really good argument to say that, hey, my client didn't understand this, or he could even say, hey, I didn't have time to reasonably, explain the difference between this version and that version, because they're very different. And that's crazy, man. And as we remember, none of this information was, argued before the judge, right?
Oh, God.
This is the one that was supposed to be in camera, correct? These are the in-camera emails, or am I?
These, let me see. These were, I think that was after. I think this caused the in-camera emails.
Right. Okay.
But this would have been just, just between the lawyers. Apparently, Love would call Wright, and then Love would email Wright, and then Wright would call her back.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's just.
And I also want to point out too, the in-camera review, the emails. I don't even think it. I think that there was testimony about it, but it was never actually for Sledge's violation. It was during either right after or just before his testimony.
Yeah, she was supposed to have done it 3 or 4 times, and then she just kind of, if I remember correctly, she was like, so we don't have to. She was trying her best to not have to do this, because she said, can't you guys figure it out so that I don't have to do that?
Yeah. I know there was an in-camera review that somebody, I think it was Steele, requested all of the emails for everyone else that was going to testify.
Yep.
I know that was the most recent one.
But did Love do her homework? Did she? It's a lot of missing pieces also because of Love not doing her homework. That we would come back to something and then the judge would have to jump to something else because we'd still be waiting. I say we. we'd still be waiting for Love's homework. So we'd have to go to something else and then double back and then come back to then. It's like, I think that was a lot of the haphazard that Paige was talking about.
Yeah, I can't express. You don't not do the thing. You can't do that. You have to do the thing that the judge says. You can't just. You have to do it. I don't get it, and
I don't think she's scared of the judge. I don't think she's scared of anything at all, to be quite honest, because of just her arrogance, her body language, her energy is like, I run this, I do that, and I say what I want, and I can yell at the judge and not get, what do you call it, held in contempt. But with Paige, she's kind of walking a little light, but she still kind of feels like, I hear you, but I'm going to do what I want, because guess what? You're not actually going to reprimand me, and that's kind of like what I feel that,
it's like having the parent that like always says like yes, and so you have like, you go ask dad, he says no, you ask mom and she says yes, you go do it. That's kind of how Paige was whenever she first came in, and that's just human nature, right? Like, once you're new to something, you're giving it the benefit of the doubt. You're trying to listen to all sides and listen to all arguments. You're trying not to jump to conclusions. But we see that, Paige is kind of quickly, and I hate calling her Paige, but it's just so much easier to say than Judge Whitaker or Judge Paige. But know that I mean no disrespect to the honorable judge by calling her by her first name.
That's her name.
It is her name, isn't it?
Before we start back, we had a question. Someone wanted to know, Ocean Beach, that's in the chat. I can't find it, but it was sent to me. Wanted to know if both versions are still available, or has one been removed, the document basis for the plea.
Oh, both versions of the indictment or the?
I believe the indictment, because that's what we're talking about, but they were talking about the basis of the plea. So has the indictment, and Ocean Beach, you can go ahead and tell me if this is what I'm relaying your question correctly or not, but I believe that's what they're speaking about, because you were showing the difference, and then we brought the plea, which went for the second indictment and not the first indictment.
The plea.
It is also possible that they might be asking whether what he agreed to, what his final agreement on is a plea, is that the same? Like, were those renditions the same as they were like?
Right.
I don't have those. I don't have those. Those are in evidence, but I don't think I haven't seen them anywhere. It'd be interesting to see for sure.
So the two indictments that you had up, are those both still available, or the most recent one?
Yeah, those are both available. I think they're on Thugger. Yeah, they're either on Thugger Daily. He has like a Gmail or Google Drive, a bunch of a lot of pleadings, and I think they're both in there, along with a lot.
What's interesting? The court made the state put on record the what the offers were, right? What the offers were, but she did not like hash out like what were each of the differences between the different versions of these offers with Antonio Sludge.
Yeah.
Because that could have like, and it was very clear and put on the record that the man was confused and didn't fully understand it. And so it's very interesting that she didn't, it seems like she just wasn't buying it. I felt like maybe she thinks that he wasn't taking the court seriously, and maybe had some type of, I don't want to say bias.
I don't take it seriously either.
Yeah. And so I think she had some animosity like towards him. It's kind of like,
Yeah. I mean, I think she assumed some things that weren't true. I don't think she read all the evidence in the record all that carefully, because I think I tweeted about the line by line. Actually, we have it right here. Let me just share my screen.
Is it up? Let's see.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think she assumed that he was doing things that he didn't do. I think she assumed that he had gotten more of a fair hearing initially than he'd actually gotten. Let's see.
Yeah. And thought he was, bullshitting in her court, and she wasn't having it.
We have a question for you guys. For Jim.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Says, how about, okay, now I don't know what that word is, so I'm going to let you.
Habeas corpus.
Call this legalese. Habeas corpus. Okay, I've heard that word before. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert, but basically everything that I've seen on ineffective assistance of counsel is definitely available. And I remember I said this earlier. Yeah, I started to talk about this, but basically everything that we've talked about so far it happened under Dark Right's watch. I think he's gotten too much blame for a lot of this stuff, but if he then comes back and argues the appeal, you're not really getting a second, chance at a fair hearing. You're just getting the same mistakes and the same, the same hearing a second time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean appeal. I meant the between the Glanville hearing on the plea and then the Whitaker, the revocation hearing. It's just the same mistakes over and over again. So he's not getting, additional process or additional chances. It's just, one after another, the same thing. But yeah, I mean, he didn't really get a fair shot. There wasn't really any new evidence in the revocation hearing. Yeah, I don't want to. I agree. That's the yes.
The answer is
right.
Yes.
Every part of that was right.
What's interesting too? Like, I just keep on playing this that hearing back in my head, and I keep like noticing interesting things. It's so weird to have your attorney come up and testify about a plea agreement, like a contested plea agreement.
Yeah.
Like what is he supposed to say? Like, yeah, maybe I didn't explain this very well to my client. Like, what? Like, no one's ever gonna say that.
That's somebody else in that moment. I was in the courtroom when this all went down, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in the courtroom. It was when I sat there on that bench in the back, and this is no shade to Mr. Wright, and he asked the judge, can I stay seated? I was flabbergasted. I'm like, you're fighting for his life, and you're asking, can you stay seated? For a person that's never been in a situation like that, I would want my attorney to stand up, be proud, be confident. That's where I personally felt like he failed him.
Like, yeah, have your client stand up next to you. I mean, you're an advocate, man. This is zealous advocacy, and you stand there with your client. And, yeah, I didn't recall that, but as I'm thinking back at it, he was sitting down advocating for his client.
Yeah, and then just being in there, I personally feel like the 30 years, the original plea, my whole thing was, you got 30 with this guy sitting by your side, and you're going to take him by your side, and look where we're at. Like,
I'm trying so hard right now.
I saw Coco say something about ineffective assistance. Like, that argument, I agree that he can go back and like in a motion for, reconsideration and argue, hey, my attorney should have argued, these things before you, and these are the reasons why. But he can't really appeal it based off like ineffective assistance, because he really kind of got like.
Really? So there's nothing he can do about that portion?
Because he took a plea deal. I mean, you waive certain things that you can appeal, right? Whenever you take a plea, just like Thug, like he waived being able to appeal all the Glanville.
I heard that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the Glanville stuff, and so it narrows what exactly you can appeal.
Yeah, but I think this would be a little different, because there's a difference between appealing what's an agreement versus whether there was an agreement. And
I mean, that's significant.
I think that he has a shot at. I think there are a lot of different paths he could go down for getting relief. I think that even just go back to the indictment, was he ever properly indicted? You can always appeal that under any circumstances.
Okay.
And I don't think that anyone knows what he was indicted on. I think it's demonstrably true that nobody knows what he was indicted on. And I can. Is my screen up actually?
No.
Let me share real quick.
It is up right now. There you go. It's all you.
Oh, me. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go. I don't know if I like that. So yeah, this is Miss Love at this point. Yeah, this is Miss Love. I hate Miss Love Twitter. No, I'm sorry. The Miss Love Twitter account's a genius. Whoever writes that, I love it so much. Okay, anyway, so this is Love reading out the charges at the start. She says possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, as listed in count 30. Let me just pull this up.
Is Mel in the chat? Oh my god!
She gave me the idea for some of this stuff. I don't know if she knows that.
Mel? Oh my
hello,
god!
hello. I'm a huge fan. She doesn't know.
Over here.
Oh my goodness! I found the experts here. Intimidating. Don't let anyone. She knows a lot too. There. I need to stop signing stuff short. Anyway, yeah. So count 30. That the actual count 30 in the body, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. What a mouthful. Previously convicted of felony involving the use or possession of a firearm. That's not where we're going. That's not what she says. She says possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So that's what she says at the start. It's in count 30, which if you look up here, is count 30. She's reading from the cover.
Oh my god.
Okay. So now she's reading the thing with the lighter sentence. And
wow.
These like the waivers we're talking about. I want to clear this. It says defects in the indictment. That's like if they spell your name wrong or if there's a date wrong. If they don't know what they charge you with, you can't prove that.
It's not like legal defects. It's like minor.
Yeah. Okay, now we're at possession of a convicted firearm. Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So that's the language from 131. That's from the cover. Then it says 133. That's from the body. So in the same sentence, she's
contradicting herself.
Yeah. And remember,
Miss Love.
Remember how they were talking to Sledge when he was testifying, and they were treating him like he was stupid. How could you not understand this? Like, what's your education? He's saying, I'm sorry. I think he's not like, I'm not as smart as you. But he was right and Love was wrong about many of these things, including this. He was right to be confused and she was wrong to be confident. So all those times that he was there, just trying to be free and
wow,
saying, I don't understand. And he's just debasing himself. And he's I don't know, kind of, he was right. This is the thing that I was referencing the other day when I said that this is what upsets me so much. It's not really a legal thing, but he was right.
I was just about to ask, is it elite, like her doing that? Is that another mistake or is that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a major mistake. You can't read it. Good God. Like she basically read the wrong indictment onto the record, like the wrong charges. And he agreed to them. He pled to it.
And you can't plead to something that doesn't exist. Like that's not just because you say you plead guilty to something or you accept an indictment. If it doesn't make sense, you can always go back and challenge that. Let's see.
That is big. That's not like a small mishap.
No, the crime is a pretty big part of
of the indictment for sure.
Yeah, the indictment, the crime part. Let's see. These are rights. We get back down to the factual acknowledgments.
That kind of just upset me.
Here we go.
I don't know if I've never seen this, but that kind of just the way you explained it and the way it's because you've already showed us the two, and then the way you just came back around and just brought it all together.
I was on a flight when I was trying to tweet about this. And I was so mad. It was the day of the hearing. I was like trying to take pictures with my phone. It just wasn't working very well, but I was so mad when I found this.
Wow.
And then the hearing happened, and somebody wasn't very mad about what had happened. I'm sorry. Somebody could have tried harder for these things.
Yeah.
This is why I always say it's so good to have a second set of eyes on things, man.
Yeah, or first set even.
Right. Just at least two eyes, right?
Yeah. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, so yeah, these are being read. I need to just get Ashley Merchant's client's version of this. That'll be fun. We'll see if we can spot the difference. Maybe it's not the. But anyway, basically the point is that you see that Love isn't reading through these factual acknowledgments one at a time and saying, "Is this true?" Oh wait, this isn't the factual acknowledgments. Down here, the factual acknowledgments as follows, and she just reads all 16 of them in a row, and
it's almost like an SNL skit. Like
it's like the one that she snuck in was number 8, so it's literally in the middle. She starts with the stuff that's familiar, and then reads all 16 in a row, and number 8's missed. It's think about like how much pressure you'd be under when you're listening to her talk, and it becomes a lot more understandable that in this chunk of reading, I mean, it's multiple pages of text that she's reading at him, that this right here gets missed. I mean, I think is that? Yeah, that's his name. But yeah, I think it's a lot more understandable when you look at it that way, and just how small of a portion it was that he missed.
Wait, hold on. They spell it with an A above and an O below. Do you see that?
Yeah, I did. I think that's just the court reporters just typing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how they do it, but
I don't understand the court. And I'll say that random sidebar. I don't understand how the court reporter, and I type fast, right? But they have to listen and type and get it right, and then the official record is when they go. Let me get that. How can they? Because what I've learned from watching this is there's the record that she's putting together, but then there's the last final official record where she goes in and cleans everything up. But how can you clean up? Again, I'm just a regular person. I'm just trying to, fully understand how that even works.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know they have a special typing machine. I don't know. It's magic.
Because it seems like we refer to the record a lot. So if the record is incorrect, or the record has been doctored, or the record is that plays a lot, especially when we're talking about people's lives on the line and depending on that record to be accurate.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I can't. Doug was mentioning this, but these are expensive to get. I think he was saying that the whole trial transcript, which you need if you want to appeal, is going to be 6 figures just to get them to transcribe the entire trial.
Serious?
Yeah, like a deposition, like an 8-hour. I think federal deposition max is 8.5 hours. It's well over $1,000 to get that transcript.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about the last deposition I did. I'm so mad.
So if you want the transcripts of so you can't be broke and be a criminal, or be broke and be doing stupid stuff, because you're not going to be able to afford to have it properly handled.
Yeah.
In the end, that's my consensus of what I've learned about a lot of this. It's like don't do stuff if you're broke, because it's going to take a lot to make sure that if you do take it to trial, or you do go to court, or you do see a judge, to make sure things are accurate. You have to be able to afford that.
Yeah, but they're the ones who have to do stuff. That's the
right.
That's the trap. Yeah, no, it's insane. I mean,
thank you, Chloe.
I think Bruce Harvey said I heard a rumor that he did the trial for $100,000. That's such a tiny fraction of what it would have cost if you were just to pay market rate for any lawyer. I'm sure Steele. I don't know what he billed, but
I was gonna say
well in the millions.
Yeah, actually, especially the number of days, because as they said, a normal trial will take a week or a month max or something like that, and we're a year in.
And those are expensive trials too, in of themselves.
Right. So you could just imagine. Well, first I could just imagine just the outside of the time, the cost, and just.
Yeah.
I'm just very interested to see how we move forward with Shannon and Yak Gotti's remainder of this case, and dealing with Miss Love and Paige and Hilton. And I just pray, and I hope I'm not going off tangent right now, but I just pray that the remainder of the trial is fair, because that's all we want to end, right? Is fairness, and that's something we haven't seen in the last year plus, from the denial of the bail, just in general. Everything about this case is just, as Paige would say, very haphazard. So I just pray that moving forward things look better, even though I know they won't, which is why I will be protesting again starting next week. So it's because I don't see fair happening in this case. I don't see it happening, even though people have pled out. I don't see it happening, even though now they may have less to worry about, right? Because I was just on the next panel, right?
Yeah.
And they were saying how they have I guess a couple more months to go or whatever, but how they still have all those overt acts and they still have all those counts, but now there's only 2.
Look, Slime Life Shotty is not done. I have faith that he's going to take care of the rest of these charges. I don't know how he's going to do it. He's going to say,
with the state of Georgia holding his hand.
Can you just imagine he comes? They have the state has to go question him again. Like they know what he did. He just like
how do we?
It's so great. I love it.
Yeah, he's gonna be up on the stand. Like
the jury's gonna be so confused. Where's the ringleader?
Where does the fair come in with that? And then the fact that again where we left off and what has happened in the last week and a half. How do we come back from that? I pray for Doug and the team, and I pray for Shard and the team, because I feel like they have a not necessarily a long road ahead of them, but I just think that I don't know how Love and them are going to proceed with this, because there's no way to make this fair.
The thing I've been wondering about is they're going from 6 defendants to 2, so they have to. I assume they're going to try to change the weight of the evidence is different now, because you only have the 2 defendants. So, and admissibility might be different depending on who's there. And are they going to mess something up?
Of course they are.
Probably. And I think when they had 2 people there, the prejudice is probably a little bit more pronounced, because there's 2 people sitting right there, and supposed to this whole room full of people. So we'll see.
I always felt it was weird, like in a gang case like this, that like if they don't address it, like if they don't address like why they're missing defendants in like a gang RICO case, like it's pretty reasonable for like a jury to like presume that like one of them hurt the other. So like I really think that like they should say that they're okay and like they shouldn't worry about why they're not there, because like I feel like if they just say, hey, don't worry about why they're not here, and blah 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 blah, I feel like that's kind of like that leaves too many questions for a jury, in my opinion.
If I'm not mistaken, I heard that there will be another instruction in place.
Yeah,
all that stuff you saw on TV this weekend, that's not real. All the things your friends are talking about, that didn't happen either. Forget that.
Right. Like listen, like if having a new judge did not prompt them to go to, Google and figure out why, having the biggest rapper like in Atlanta not there anymore, like that has to prompt them if they haven't already seen it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Monday morning is going to go.
I'm convinced it's going to be not funny. Like it's not. None of this is funny, but
interesting.
It is. It also is. Yeah. It's ridiculous. That's what it is.
It's like an SNL skit. It really is. Like I'm looking at like legit TV. Like,
and that's what I've been saying. It feels like a movie. And even when I was in court, and I've been on a lot of movie sets and TV sets and stuff like that, so it's not even about the camera being in there. The energy in that courthouse, in that specific room, because I can't talk about anybody else's courthouse, but in that room, it just feels different. It feels like a movie. It feels like it's crazy. The feeling that's in there. Yeah. And even when Miss Love walked past me the first time and I spoke to her, and honestly, she gave me the most evil look. It was just, I don't know. It was the energy in that room is very interesting.
I will always say, what Netflix won't be able to capture about this trial is all the suspense and the the damn waiting for something to happen, whether it was like Woody or, you know, just trial taking forever, the comfort breaks, like like Netflix will never be able to capture like the suspense, the true suspense of everything.
Woody would have been such an incredible lawyer if he'd had a different roll of the dice. He's so good in the courtroom. It's not an accident. His ability to command attention, the way he would just stop answering a question and just let there be dead silence and wait, and Hilton would eventually like, "What's your answer?" and he just pretend he wasn't thinking at all.
Right.
He's not dumb. I've seen people say that. It couldn't be further from the truth.
No.
I don't think he is either. We do have a question though from Ocean Beach. Ocean Beach says, "My question is, Thug pleaded no to RICO. The state was willing to throw out all RICO against the head of YSL. So how is this still RICO for the underlying if Tony Soprano is gone?"
I'm not sure that they threw out RICO. I think that they were going to have him plead to it and then have time served, and then they would just give him straight probation. But I feel like they were going to try to have him admit to it. And I think that's why he pled no to it.
Which is no contest for those that may not know what it is. Am I correct? Is that like a no contest thing? Like you're not guilty or not guilty. It's just like whatever.
You're not contesting the allegations from the state. You're just you're not admitting to them. You're not really staying silent because you're pleading, but you're not.
That's right.
You're not acknowledging the statements.
Okay. So then who gets, so if the head has pled out,
we also have to recognize that there's two RICO counts, I believe, that were kind of maybe even three that were last standing, but I know one of them was the leader, right? And I don't think did he plead to that? Was it Nolo to the lead? Or did she? I can't remember either.
Do we have the plea deal? Can somebody, one of my mods, if I believe I actually have the plea, if I'm not mistaken.
And maybe Belen knows in the chat.
Yeah, I think.
If we do, we need to do a Whitaker versus Glanville sentence side by side. It's going to be special.
Oh yeah.
You know, Antonio Sledge didn't actually have any special conditions of probation in his sentence.
He didn't?
No, it's funny if you read Adam Abante's motion to revoke, he doesn't actually say, he never says that there are special conditions of probation. He never actually accuses Sledge of violating the special conditions of probation.
Right. This is and if I'm not mistaken, Whitaker said that he wanted to get him for perjury. So what was the final thing that made him go back to jail? Because I was a tad confused, because it was like, oh, he violated his probation, and then it was perjury, or she wanted it to be perjury, or
she was like comparing it to perjury. She was saying he wasn't testifying truthfully.
Okay.
Let me just finish up this point. I'll just go ahead to that. But anyway, so yeah, these are count 30. This is what he's actually pleading to. He pleads guilty to 133. Convicted felon. Anyway, like down here at the bottom. I'm sorry. The caption of OG is the green snake emoji and a green heart emoji. Somebody read that out loud as if it was a crime. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, they all those emojis.
Okay, this is the rejection part. They're discussing. So remember how we were saying that he was going to get? They weren't going to sentence him on count 30. They were going to hold off until the end. So they get to the end. This is after everything. This is after the agreement. This is after the factual acknowledgments, and they're talking about how. I'm sorry, that just sounds like a Nolo, Lolo, Yellow. Okay, yeah, so this is the part where they're talking about the sentence, and Love has submitted the sentence to the court. saying voluntarily agreed to it. And she's reading it. It says court withhold sentencing. The judge asks if he's under sentence. He's not. And the judge says, basically, he doesn't have a sentence and he doesn't have a bond, but you want me to let him go. I don't really have a way to do that. It needs to be, you need to do something. You can't just let him walk out. And they basically renegotiate the deal at this point. And they change it so that he's going to be sentenced just to probation. He's going to accept the 15 years of probation on count 30. And let me see. Here it is. So they're changing their sentence on count 30 from the agreement, saying state recommends it's going to be sentenced to 15 years, which is the max, to run consecutively with count 1. So this isn't the agreement that he signed. That's not what this agreement is. It says sentencing withheld until the completion. So this that Adam Abate, my best friend, attached to that he used in the motion to revoke such as parole, it's not the agreement. It's just objectively wrong.
It's not even like the final, what was actually the final agreement. This is like a draft of it.
Essentially. So if you have this was an agreement, but when you amend or do an entirely new agreement and it's called novation. It's the concept that you had an agreement and now there's a new agreement. And so the old agreement's novated, is void. It's just an old contract that's not in force anymore. And so this says sentencing withheld. That part isn't true anymore. Let me see. Let me go down further. This part. This is fine. Okay, so number 2, these are the sentencing acknowledgments. So these are the things that he can't violate. It says his probation for this sentence may be revoked in its entirety. But remember, when he signed this, he didn't have the second 15 years. So when he signed this, his probation at that time was only 15 years. So this doesn't work anymore. This isn't valid anymore. Number 3, defendant understands any violation of any special condition shall result in defendant being sentenced on count 30. He's already been sentenced on count 30. This falls out too. This doesn't work.
So technically, by that language, Paige doesn't even have the, like, it's unclear what she can even do. Like, can she revoke him? I mean, I guess she can.
Yeah, I mean, there's still things he can do to get revoked. But all this means is that this ain't it.
Yeah.
You can still revoke him, but you need something else. And I mean, I can keep going. There are a lot of reasons that this just doesn't work anymore. But this is just an old agreement. It was proposed. They agreed to it. He signed it. And people keep saying this to me. If one more person says, but he signed it to me, I'm going to not do anything, but be really mad. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. Oh my, this feels so good to be able to say it to people. I just try to tell my girlfriend these things, and she's like, yeah, that's Quay. Who's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an agreement. It's over. It's an old agreement. It doesn't have any effect anymore.
Wow.
So yeah. And
so again, do you think at this point that he needs effective counsel to move forward to, because again, he's in there for 5 years, right? Or supposed to be, or well, whatever. Is there a way for him to now move forward with effective counsel to, like we were saying, go back and, because I guess you can't appeal the sentence. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but he can fight this, correct?
Yeah. I mean, just on the indictment, what we talked about in the first 5 minutes is enough to get before an appeals court. And I mean, honestly, I think that the thing with the motion to reconsider is if you do a good one and it looks right, the judge is going to read it. And if the judge reads it and realizes that she's been taken advantage of, they will probably be more inclined to
especially by this state, especially by these attorneys that are representing the people.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because they've lost all credibility, like, in front of this court. And, I'm not even sure. I mean, there's been multiple times that the judge has even questioned the candor of the state and what they're even representing to her. I mean, the state had the nerve to tell the judge that she couldn't exclude a witness.
That
Like,
was fun. That was funny.
like, who
Tammy
who
wants
can
to
do
know,
that?
not to cut you off, Antonio, but Tammy wants to know, what options does Antonio actually have, like being very realistic.
But I want to do, I don't to move the court. You can withdraw a guilty plea after sentencing if it's manifest upon the showing of manifest injustice. Actually, that it might be too late for that. Actually, but you can definitely do a habeas and contest the conviction. You can contest the indictment. If you were never properly indicted, you can appeal that at any time, no matter how long you've been sentenced. Let me see. There's always an effective assistance of counsel. There's a lot of ways you can move forward. Obviously, you want to do it sooner rather than later.
Right.
But
thank you, Tammy. That's a great question.
we could all get. No, I can't say that. Just break into the. We can go get them, guys. There's 300 and what was it? 79 of us.
It's 509 of us.
500. That's wait. We can get them. Come on, guys. This might technically be a conspiracy if any of you agree with me.
I'm like shaking my head up and down. I'm like, darn it.
Like it was AI. See me.
And Antonio shakes his head up and down, an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
Right.
There's my favorite overt act. It's so stupid. They're all stupid. Every one of them stupid. I really love to take the trials in there for the record forever. But there's one that is receiving a text message. That's not an act. That's your phone getting a message. When I get a spam text message asking me about my car insurance, I'm not doing an act. I don't want them to do it. I didn't do anything. That's not an overt act. It's not an act. It's not anything. Sorry, I need to say that. I've been holding on to that for a while.
No, that makes sense.
This is therapy. I like this. We should do this more.
I think our guests like it. I'm looking at the chat and people are vibing. I'm trying to get more comments on the screen. But I like how we're being serious, but there's laughter and everything, right?
I mean, it is ridiculous. It is what it is.
It is this trial in general. Like I said, I think it's opened up everybody's eyes to the injustices. I was seeing people say that this was the first time they've ever seen something like this happen, and a lot of people didn't know. More so, if I can get serious for a second, that these type of injustices even occur, based upon talking to people, granted online or whatnot, but to know that this trial is opening the eyes of millions of people everywhere to see the injustices, because it's not about your race or nationality or religion or any of that. Injustice is injustice, especially when we're talking about the law. And when things are unfair and you can see that and everybody can see that, I really believe that personally, I would hope that Fulton County bows out. But at this point, we got to take it to the end. Because if Gotti is gonna fight and if Stillwell is gonna fight, I said we have to be their eyes and ears at this point, every step of the way, the rest of the way, and we know that the attorneys kind of listen, because again, we pick up on things that they may not hear or see, right? So I think that going forward, we have to make sure, or continue to make sure, like things like this, like you're pointing out those differences, right? I think that whenever Antonio does get better counsel, which I feel like he will, I see some people in the chat saying that there's a GoFundMe for him to get new counsel, and I think that it's necessary, especially if he wants to do the habeas corpus that you guys are speaking about. That's going to cost, So,
I mean, some people offered to do it for free. I heard.
Really?
Yeah, somebody reached out to Derek Wright and offered to do it for free. That's what I heard. Somebody did that.
Wow. Well, that's Well, one thing that's amazing that someone's willing to do
I
that.
hope they accept that energy. I hope Antonia accepts that energy. I hope that Mr. Wright knows that, and I'm just gonna keep it real because I keep it real, right? So I don't care, it's YouTube. At some point he needs to realize, okay, let me step back for a second. Maybe I didn't put him in the best predicament. Maybe I didn't get him the best deal, and the second time over, maybe I didn't give it the best effort. And
I think I'm not going to look, he messed up, but think about, okay, you need to realize his client was facing 35 years. And in his mind, my client's walking out of here today. This is amazing. And he's been negotiating this deal, the plea deal, for over a month. And he thinks he just got the perfect version. It's this hearing's a technicality. Everything's worked out beforehand. Like, in his mind, it's over. He's won already. His client is going home to his family. That's what you want. And again, you can't.
Right?
Yeah, and again, like, it's not, you can't make this mistake. But it wasn't that he got a terrible deal. He got a really incredible deal.
Right.
With a little bit snuck in there. And
got an incredible deal with some bullshit.
Is that length of probation normal?
Is
the length of probation that he received, is that normal?
I think again, I don't know enough to say, but I think in Georgia it's pretty typical.
I've heard other Georgia attorneys say that Georgia loves its probation, and it's pretty common. But I've also heard that, you'll oftentimes end up doing like 50% of it, and then the rest is basically like commuted, which is interesting. But I'm not familiar. I mean, 30 years of probation, that's even hard to fathom. So
that's pretty much half of your life.
Dude, I'm not even 30.
As Jim said, when you're facing certain charges, it's either I sit in jail for however long, or I can try to go outside and be on my best behavior. And I think I understand where you're coming from, Jim, when you said it was a good deal. In the end, when you look at the charges that he was facing, it's still kind of sucky that you
can't do that. You can't make that mistake. I'm not excusing what he missed. That's not acceptable, but it's human, I think.
But like you said, it's fixable. With the right attorney and the right situation. And we just have to continue to pray for him, and pray for Shannon, and pray for Yak, and pray for Little Rod. We are working on that situation as well. So I want to thank you guys. We have been on here for 2 hours, and I do want to do this again with you guys. I don't think this will be the last time. I do love the energy. Thank you so much, Jim. And
Can I do one more thing?
Do your thing. I'm going you to sip my tea. Do your thing. Okay,
so this is, he gets sentenced to 133, and then this is like 20. This is the same day. It's 20. I don't know how long it is. Half an hour later, it's back to 131, but it's with 15 years. And remember, 131.
So we've gone from 131 to 133 back to 131.
Yeah. So if you look, he's got the lower charge of 131, but he has the higher sentence. So they get to defend the easier charge, but impose the harsher sentence.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
That is insane. They kind of like flip-flopped them.
And Jim, you said this is allowed? Like, this is...
No, you can't do this.
Yeah, that's where I'm stuck at, because I'm like, okay, so what do we? I keep saying we. I don't even know what can he, from where he's at currently, do about this outside of just? I mean, I guess the only thing he can do is get effective counsel, huh?
I guess another question is, what does a judge think about it? Like think about all these missteps. Like how far do you think a judge gets through this presentation from an attorney before they're like, all right, man, like, we're just gonna, and then what does she do in that instance? Because he's basically saying, there's issues with the indictment, but there's also issues with this plea agreement. Like, she can't.
There's issues with a lot of stuff, not just like everything. There's
the
indictment, the negotiations, the actual plea agreement has mistakes, then the plea hearing has mistakes, the sentence has mistakes, and then Sludge gets yelled at for being confused. That's being confused is right. If it's confusing and you're confused, you're the right one. You're not confused.
Right, you're right. But what does a judge do in that instance? Like, what can they do? I mean, like, you're bringing up like serious
I mean,
missteps.
well, we saw what she did. They did bring it up. The Wright and Sledge brought up the problem, and then we saw.
He did not bring up the problem sufficiently.
I agree. No, I agree. It
Because-
wasn't sufficiently brought up at all. It was done terribly. The whole. I agree with that. It was mentioned. Let me use my proper terms. It was mentioned.
Yeah, that he didn't understand it.
Yeah, and so if somebody says I don't understand, you can't force them to, or but I guess they did because he's in jail now. So
yeah, it's hard to say without really convincing evidence, which, you know, our friend Jim here has kind of gone out and found. It's hard to say that you didn't understand something that you agreed. Judges are generally gonna like kick that argument down the road, and they're not gonna be feeling that. I mean, that kind of goes like anywhere. Like, even if you say, hey, I didn't understand this agreement I made with a business partner, but you signed it, you know, they're probably gonna hold you to that.
Giving me flashbacks when you say that. Oh my goodness.
So, you know, but I think what Jim has done is he's gone through and he's kind of like hashed out like, well, Judge, you know, he didn't understand, but these are the reasons why this was so confusing.
He didn't understand because looks terrible. There's nothing
the
to
attorney
understand.
seems like he didn't even understand it. Like, so this has confused his attorney. It confused Mr. Sledge. And, you know, frankly, I was confused trying to hash this out. That's crazy.
I'm confused by this. Until the completion of the initial trial of this case, what does that mean? I don't know. Why is it red? Why did they use red text? What? Why any of this? And actually, I want to say one thing about Antonio said. I'm sorry. The not understanding is a perfectly good argument, but you have to show why he didn't understand. You can't just, you know, show prior versions of the agreement that he signed. You have to make an argument.
That makes sense. You have to explain the why.
Yeah, like what didn't you understand? Why didn't you understand it? Like, you know, it's nonsensical. I mean, and then show the documents. And I think it's reasonable to not understand, but you know,
right.
I think we're about to close up here. Before we do, I have a final kind of question here for you. Since we're talking about plea agreements, one thing I noticed about Thug's plea agreement was that one of his conditions is like he can't promote a gang, and you know, and especially with someone whose you know, biggest weapon is their voice, you know, whose career is their voice. It's kind of like a slippery slope, like right there. It's kind of like, you know, what's to say? You know, we've heard the state come in and allege crazy things throughout, you know, this trial that, you know, wiping your nose is, you know, you know, you know, an insult against someone else, or other things like that. And so it's really, you know, weird. I'm surprised that they didn't hash that out a little bit further. You know, whenever they're saying, hey, you know, we won't say anything about a gang, you know, and anything else, you know, in pictures, right? Or not so much in music. I just thought that was interesting because it's not really clear what exactly, you know, Thug can go out and say. Can he go out and say, you know, YSL and slime shit? Like, or, you know, can he say that stuff now? Can he say YSL? Because YSL...
That was my question, but YSL is not a gang, according to most of all the witnesses. So, but the state says that it is, especially when they were reading, you know, the plea and what he can and can't do. That is a great question, Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, there are clearly some people who are like, sounds like such a prosecutor now, like they were representing YSL, and there was like a small subset of people, and maybe amongst them, YSL is a gang. Like, I'm not going to name specific defendants, but some of them did do crimes, and they claimed YSL. So for those specific people, maybe it was, but I don't think for Young Thug it was a gang. I mean, it's subjective.
Right.
It's a label. It doesn't have any real meaning. It's just a label that you assign to the word or letters, I guess. But yeah, I think your point's right. Like, what is gang can mean anything apparently. If you wear green and wear certain clothes, you're in a gang now. So if you're promoting green and you're promoting a gang, it's just it's definitely an issue. Oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. Look at this.
This is for if everybody's paying attention. Thank you, Baleen, for the documents. I appreciate you, darling. This is Jeffrey's final disposition.
Okay.
I don't know how to read it, so maybe Jim, what do you got? Can help me with this.
So
but
count one's Nolo, 56 Nolo, 57 through 61. He is guilty. He submits a guilty plea. And 62.
Guilty.
Sawed-off rifle? I didn't know that was a thing. Sorry, that wasn't.
That's okay. It's okay. Commuted to time served. So he pled nolo to the conspiracy to violate the RICO Act, as well as the unlawful person who occupied a criminal street gang position him. So, like Mel was saying, the leader charge and the RICO. So the sentence summary: the defendant is sentenced for a total of 40 years, with the first 5 years in prison commuted to time served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed by 20 backload years in prison. If he doesn't complete those 15 successfully, then he will go to jail for 20 years, is what this says, correct?
I'm not an expert, but that's my understanding.
That's my understanding too. My question was, what if he was like 7 years into his probation and then he violated? Is that the full 20 backloaded and he has to do 20 then, or is it?
I don't know how to be calculated.
Neither do I.
I don't know.
Backload means just thrown like on the back end of it. Like it's not there unless he violates and then it's there. So it's kind of like a suspended sentence, basically.
Oh no, this is really good. I was hoping you were going to get to this part. See where it says special conditions of probation?
Yes.
Where they have the special conditions of probation.
The
in the special conditions of probation section, that the special conditions is supposed to follow his probation. Yeah. This does. Wait. Oh, you're on yours. I'm sorry. The Sledge one doesn't say that. It says negotiated sentence and special conditions of sentence. It doesn't say special conditions of probation. No. It's not even. It doesn't talk about probation at all.
Can you guys explain what backload means? Thank you, Peach. Peach wants.
I think Antonio knows more than I do.
What?
It's like a without knowing exactly how it works, I can say how like the effect of it. It's basically like a suspended sentence. Like it's thrown on the back end of his sentence in case he violates. This is what he'd be serving. So it's kind of like the judge like maintaining his full sentence while also allowing him to go free. So like the seriousness of his charge, like how much time, like if he would have be found guilty of count one, basically that she's basically saying, hey, these charges are really serious, and if you mess up, you're going to go to jail for a really long time.
Yeah. If you do end up going to prison, it's going to be for a really long time.
Yep.
If you mess up, it gets worse, I guess.
I was surprised that she banned him from Atlanta, like the metro.
I'm actually going to go ahead and read this out loud for people. So we're going to do the special conditions of probation for Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug. So the first special condition is after 48 hours, defendant shall stay away from the metro Atlanta area as defined by U.S. Census Bureau for the first 10 years of his probation, subject to the following exceptions. He can come to Atlanta to attend a wedding, funeral, graduation from high school, college, or graduate school, or medical emergency of immediate family members only. Immediate family members mean his biological parents, grandparents, siblings, children, aunts, uncles, and first cousins. The defendant may enter the metro area up to 24 hours prior to any event listed above and must leave Atlanta within 48 hours after the event. B, during each of his probation years, the defendant shall enter the Atlanta area and shall make a live anti-gang and anti-gun violence presentation 4 times a year at a grade school, middle school, boys and girls club, or similar group. The presentation may include a benefit concert. These presentations may count towards his required community service hours. 2, during each of his probation, that makes no sense. But anyway, during each of his probation, defendant shall perform 100 hours of community service. 3, defendants shall not knowingly have contact of any kind or character with any other member or associate of a criminal street gang who are not a member of the defendant's immediate family, including but not limited to each of the named individuals charged in the indictment, with the exception of defendant's biological brother, Quantavious Greer, and Sergio Kitchens, for as long as defendant and Mr. Kitchens are contractually obligated except as necessary for the lawful business of his musical career. In the event any provision of this special condition is determined to be void or unenforceable, such determination shall not affect the sentence or the remainder of the special conditions, which shall continue to be enforced to the fullest extent permitted by law. 4, defendants shall in no way promote any criminal street gang, including on any social media platform. 5, defendants shall not utilize any hand sign, terminology, or language that promotes or represents any criminal street gang directly or indirectly. 6, defendants.
Wait, can I hear that one again?
5, defendants shall not utilize any hand sign, terminology, or language that promotes or represents any criminal street gang directly or indirectly.
He can't use any language that he can't even say gang then. Any language that represents a criminal street, so like Bloods, he can't say the word Bloods. How's he going to do the anti-gang prevention presentation? He can't talk about gangs.
He can't even tell kids not to join gangs.
Don't do something, I guess. The group. Don't do the group thing with the bad stuff.
He can't even say, "Don't do anything that I did," like because he.
I mean, that's about all he probably can say.
Don't do, you know.
That's an indirect reference, I'd promise.
Number 6, defendants shall not participate in any criminal gang activity. Number 7, defendants shall not knowingly engage in any form of contact with the victims listed in Fulton County indictment and the indictment number, or with any member of their family or household except through legal counsel. Number 8, defendant shall have neither in his possession nor within arm's reach of his person a firearm or any sort during the time that the defendant remains under this sentence, and it shall be solely defendant's responsibility to ensure that no person in his immediate presence is knowingly in possession of a firearm of any sort, with the sole exception being licensed law enforcement officers and licensed security personnel that comprise defendant's personal security detail or that comprise the personal security detail of a musical artist with whom defendant is performing.
Can we pause there? I have a question about that. What if his like wife has a weapon? Like are we now infringing upon her right to? I never thought about that. I've never had my rights to carry a firearm taken away from me. But how does that work? Like if you're in a family with other family members who have their Second Amendment right intact?
I mean, the short answer is
you're screwed.
Well, the thing is, like they can put him in prison. So that's kind of the baseline, and they're letting him out on these conditions. So it's not an infringement on the right. It's I don't know about this. It's
like an infringement on his right,
to
be around them, not on their right to carry the weapon. I mean, I guess that's how a court would see it. But.
Well, I guess the point is that he could be in prison, and he wouldn't have a gun in prison, and they're letting him out on kind of with limited liberties, and so it's kind of baked into the agreement.
Yeah.
And in reality, I think it's a really interesting question we need a lot of time to get into in terms of there's a whole bunch of 14th Amendment case law about privacy in your home, and if you're like at some point you would get into that territory in practice with respect to his family members, whether because implicitly the state would have to be looking at whether the family members have a gun in their own home, and so there'd be kind of
so essentially does he have to ask every single person around, hey, do you have a gun? Hey, do you have a gun?
Theoretically.
But if they accidentally have a gun, it's okay. So the people who just don't forget that they have a Glock in their pockets, like Woody, that's fine. You can hang out with those people.
Wow.
Is knowingly in possession. Like he'd have to prove that they were, I guess a defense is unknowingly. It was unknowingly in their possession.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Number 9, defendants shall violate no laws of any governmental unit of the state of Georgia, any state or territory, or the United States. 10.
So no speeding tickets.
Just say no law. You can just say don't break any laws. You don't need to say everything.
Yeah, and even the way it's written is all crazy. But number 10, defendant may transfer probation out of state. Defendant may retain his passport and may travel freely out of state and outside the U.S. for defendant's lawful business and of his musical career. So he can go all around the world, I guess. But isn't he not? Wait. Okay. So was what he pled guilty to a felony?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to make. And in certain countries, aren't you not? Even though he has a passport, they don't allow felons in their country, correct?
Yeah, sure.
There's certain like rules. Yeah, like Canada is kind of strict up with it. You know, there's other countries in Europe that are likely to decline your entry.
Interesting.
But it's likely that, you know, those problems are kind of for like normal people. It's likely that you'll be able to have a phone call before he goes that says, hey, you know, Jeffrey King Slime Williams is coming, and, you know, and accept him. But, you know, I doubt that's going to be too much of a hindrance for him.
Right. Okay, 11, defendants shall submit to random drug screens and shall abstain from the use of any drug not prescribed by a licensed physician. 12, defendants shall execute a Fourth Amendment waiver to permit the search of his person, residence, vehicles, and electronics for firearms, criminal street gang paraphernalia, or illicit drugs. What does that mean? They just violate him and just search his stuff at any point in time. Is that what that means?
Yeah, they want us. Yeah, I was going to make fun of it, but yeah, that's what they're saying. You're giving up your right to be safe in your person and your possessions. But that's basically, I mean, it's probation. They're going to be able to test him, and they're going to search his electronics for guns.
They're going to come to his house unannounced. You know, that's all typical probation stuff.
All right, so it looks like it says for people who don't know what a first offender or conditional discharge is, I guess I don't know if it'll explain it if I read it, but can you guys, Jim, can you explain what that means?
I honestly, I have no idea, because there are people that are on like their fifth conviction and it still says first offender. I have no idea.
We saw that in Multum's case when the judge said, oh, I think it was like 2 or 3 that first.
Yeah, it's right there. Looking at it. And track changes are still on too, so I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about you know, first offender.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and read it then, and maybe we can find some.
Yeah, would you like me to read it?
Please.
The defendant consenting hereto, it is the judgment of the court that no judgment of guilt be imposed at this time, but that further proceedings are deferred, and the defendant is hereby sentenced to confinement at such institution as the Commissioner of the State Department of Corrections or the court may direct, with the period of confinement being commuted or computed as provided by law. Upon violation of the terms of probation, upon conviction for another crime during the period of probation, or upon the court's determination that the defendant is or was not eligible for sentencing under the First Offenders Act, or for conditional discharge, the court may enter an adjudication of guilt and proceed to sentence the defendant to the maximum sentence as provided by law. Upon fulfillment of the terms of the sentence, or upon release of the defendant by the court, prior to the termination of this sentence, the defendant shall stand discharged of said offense without court adjudication of guilt, and shall be completely exonerated of guilt of said offense charged. So it looks like what they're saying here is, if he violates this, you know, if he violates his conditions, he there's going to be that's the second paragraph there. He's basically going to be, he can be sentenced to the maximum sentence, or if they define, or if they find that he was not eligible for the first offenders, you know.
So then if he violates, he'll go for the total 40 years that they were sentencing?
I think it's going to be the 20, I believe. See, I'm not sure if he violates, because he's going to have that backloaded. But I'm not sure if he gets sentenced to his original sentence.
Can you scroll up to the top real quick? The very top, there's like a box. I just saw this on the left side. It says first offender conditional discharge. So it looks like, I don't know this, but it looks like if you check the box OCGA 42860, then they would be given the first offender designation, and then that stuff at the bottom would apply. But I'm thinking because it's not checked, it doesn't apply.
Oh. Okay. All right.
I was trying to find out who fills these out.
So it says the defendant is a judge. Am I saying that right? A judge guilty or sentenced under the first offender conditional discharge for the above stated offenses. The court sentences the defendant to confinement in such institution as the Commissioner of the State Department of Corrections may direct, with the period of confinement to be computed as provided by law. And then this was the sentence. And then it says, upon service of 5 years in prison and commuted to time served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed by 20 backload. I think he's good. At the end of the day, I don't think that anybody that's around him or that he will have around him will allow him to get in any sort of trouble. I think that himself, and I pray that he will have a lot of self-discipline, because the world is as someone we know would say, life is tricky. And you have to have so much self-control and self-discipline. When you look at something like Mutsung having however many years he would have to do in, as far as probation, and just seeing Thug and the fact that they said, okay, you got 15 years to prove to us that you can do this or you're going back. Like, it's one of those things, but I know and I pray that he moving forward, he has and continues to have the right company around him, which I feel like he did prior to some of the things that happened. I know that based upon people that know him and people that I know that know him, he's a sweetheart, and he just has to have a lot of discernment, because people will see that good and try to take that best out of you and drain you. So I pray that he continues to move forward with all the goodness that he has in his heart, and he continues to flourish and continues to make a difference in neighborhoods across the country. And I know that Atlanta will be looking forward to him coming back to do those benefit concerts, and the kids will look forward to him doing that. And on that note, I will go ahead and end this first segment. And I again thank you guys for tuning in. I thank everybody that's on YouTube, everybody that's on Twitter watching. We had an average of like 500 people throughout the night on the first show. So I am excited about that. And I definitely look forward to more conversations with you all. And I thank everybody again for tuning in. And I hope that everybody has a great night tonight. I know it's late. It's different times in different countries and different places. But stay elevated, stay peaceful, and stay mindful. And I hope everybody has a great night.
Everybody.
Thank you again, Jim, as well. And thank you, Antonio. I think I said it before, but I have to run that back. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Of course.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It was lovely. And you did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you. Well, more to come.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night, guys.